by alone inside. He's got the breakaway with the touch to the right. Goal! Everything you wanted from this debut. It's Brandon by taking a shot with the left. Goal! Isaac Friend from 25 yards out. The equalizer. Will Kidd with the touch of the goal. It's a go-ahead goal. Minneapolis City.
This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of your Minneapolis City Soccer Club, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Welcome back to the People's Pitch, coming at you from Babytown. It is time to get down. This is the People's Pitch Podcast, the official podcast of Minneapolis City Soccer Club. I am Nate, joined by John, and I am back. We are back after, we'll call it paternity leave for me. John, thank you for keeping the show going. Thanks to Adam and Matt for filling in. Who knew having a baby was so hard?
Right. Yeah. I mean, hey, it happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. It's a circle of life, right?
That's right. This week we were asked to bring back the Old Grand Dad Rant. So we're going to do that on a hot button topic here in these United States. Guys, this past week started to bless the NCAA tourney with their presence and continue on. So we will talk about that. And the annual owners meeting was this past weekend in Nash Vegas. We sent Adam down there, so we will cover again what that meeting is. We sent Adam Pribble down there. We trusted him with that.
Yeah, I call it Smashville.
Oh, Smashville. That's great. So we'll check out what that meeting is, what it's not, and we'll catch you up on some key takeaways that the people need to know about. And then we're going to end things off with an update on how the first open trial went. Let's do it.
Well, first off, Nate, welcome back, dude.
Thank you.
I missed you so much. And not to say that Adam and Matt did not do a fantastic job. I gave them the hardest part, which was the closing, and it was just comical for me because I know how hard it is, especially if you're drinking a little bit while we're doing this. Like it's just a tongue twister every time we do it. So I gave them so I'm glad to have you back. They did a fantastic job. Thank you so much to those guys. But congrats on the new addition to your family. I'm glad to hear. We were catching up beforehand. I'm glad to hear that things are going well with the wife and the baby, and you haven't gone out for a pack of smokes and never come back yet.
No,
so
not yet.
so it's good to hear that. So let's dive in, and real quickly before we do dive in, the person who asked for the Old Granddad Rant, I got a lot of Old Granddad in me, so it's gonna be good.
I better start first, man. I will go first. The League of Nations Cup matches between the United States and Canada and Cuba just ended tonight, and it feels like that means it's the perfect time to talk about just what the hell is happening with this team of ours, the US national team.
Oh man!
Our official, unofficial content manager Bryn asked for this Old Granddad Rant, so I'm sure each of us, John, have thoughts on this topic, especially given that split result of the Canadian home and away. So we can both chime in here. I will go first.
It'll be a little bit of overlap. I'll caveat that now.
Sure.
But we each get our soapbox. So let's do it.
All right, man. So in what seems to be just 6 short years, we have seen this team go from what feels like a gritty group of the best players that the United States had to offer, scrapping it out in the World Cup. I believe that we will win, like that kind of a thing, right? And now we're this ever fluctuating like roster experiment made up of a who's who of America's next great hope for soccer, like a revolving door of the next big thing. And instead of like fighting hard against Portugal or bringing the heat against regional rivals like Mexico, we're suddenly found this team that now struggles to like show up against a cadre of MLS roster filler bait that is our neighbors to the north in Canada. It's pretty sad. And here's like the problem is that doesn't. Instead of being able to line up against Portugal, instead of being able to line up competitively against Mexico or any team like that as our loss to like Trinidad and Tobago shows, our loss to Canada, we have this new like tiny Lil Sebastian sized stature in international soccer. Suddenly we're not very well respected. I'm getting the feeling guys like Matt Turner are getting called up to camp because coaches in real leagues won't release their real players to take part in old Greg's exercise in futility. I think it seems like we're really at the point now where soccer pundits are forced to debate what the New England Revolution's second string goalkeeper can offer the U.S. men's national team. And that is,
what the fuck?
That is sad as hell. I mean, ideally, right, we would be able to trot out a whole team of guys like Turner and Lovitz and Leggett and Zardes against Canada without any worry. Because, like, Joachim Low doesn't really stress if Neuer or Timo Werner aren't available for the team. He's got guys that he can plug in from all over Germany and be fine against, like, Liechtenstein. But us, we're at the point where we need these wins against the teams like Liechtenstein, the teams like Canada and Cuba, because no win against better talent, even with access to our best players, is guaranteed. So we got to get the W's where we can, and how we can. And how we can, exactly. I think the U.S., John, in my mind, needs to start playing its best players, its younger players, its dynamic players together in a system that works for them. You saw today against Cuba, it's not like it's any sort of bellwether, but all of a sudden Jordan Morris goes off for 2 goals. That's his 3rd goal in 2 games. That's nice. Josh Sargent with 2 goals, 1 right in the first minute. Like, these are the guys that we need to be hanging our hats on. Guys like, and Greg has to work on getting the trust of all the other coaches in the big leagues so that we can get guys like Pulisic to come back, so that Zach Steffen can come back, things like that. I know Pulisic has a knock right now, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to be able to get that core of players that we're going to be building on together more frequently, because it sucks watching guys like Pulisic and McKennie like struggle to play with a guy like Roldan or Leggett in a system that stifles talent and elevates mediocrity. Like, they're basically on islands out there. And if we can't do that, if we can't pull our best players together all at once consistently and win, then you got to can the coach. You got to get it out of there, and you got to get the next guy up who's going to just start playing our best prospects all together consistently, so we can start planning for, sorry to say, 2026.
Old Grand Dad Rant, Nate Morales. Yeah. Love it. Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay. What the fuck are we doing? Seriously. Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Because it's not getting better quality in for a World Cup and then not getting us better to compete in a World Cup. It's you mentioned it. It's just getting us in to a World Cup is like now the goal instead of us actually competing in one. We're in like, it.
Then what? You think Nick Lima is going to do anything against any of these guys that play in Europe?
Right. And God bless him, Reggie Cannon. Come on. Like, so where do I start? Well, let's go back to 2002. So in 2002 World Cup, with a mix of the best players in the early days of the MLS, players playing in Europe or Mexico for club, and most of them being under the age of 30, we took the tourney by storm, Nate, by fucking storm, where we really established the formula of advancing with a convincing win, a lackluster draw, and a loss. So the 1 win, 1 tie, 1 loss, we figured out that gets us into the next round. And then what we had was in that World Cup, a win versus Portugal, a side that had people like Figo and, like a good quality Portugal side. We drew against the eventual 4th place team in host South Korea. And then our loss came to a 3-1 loss to Poland, which is like, whatever. We were already basically in at that point. Then we wrecked a top 10 team in the world in Mexico before being a handball away versus the eventual runner-up in Germany. So if you boil that down, we played 2 top 10 teams in the world, in the whole fucking world, and we performed against them. Mm-hmm. And then 2 of the last 4 teams in the entire World Cup. So what the fuck? From that point, it was supposed to be where we as a country took off into the realm of the world soccer powers. Like, we were on a trajectory to the top, baby. And then we had a young and thriving league in the MLS, whether you liked it or not at that time. With big names that were coming over from Europe, young stars like the Beasleys and Donovans of the world. We had a federation totally cued in to the needs of those players that we were bringing in that were younger, under 30, and the coaching staff to be very successful. There was decent success from a player identification standpoint in the Olympic development program at that time. We were getting more and more young players playing the game in the country. So what followed that? A series of missteps by the federation hierarchy, a closed system of play, no pro relegation, an underdeveloped secondary professional market for players in that closed system, the NASLs, the USLs, the PDLs, the NPSLs that we're in, an unwillingness, an over-dependency on an already broken NCAA system, an unwillingness for soccer players to sign and develop our players after too many failed attempts, a relentless dedication to hard tactics versus advancing a style of play that drew on for almost a full decade that made that 2020 team basically a total afterthought. That's where we were, okay, as a group. After a brief uptick in some coming years after that, the hire of what I feel, like him or not, was the right coach to lead our teams into battle at the world's biggest stages in Bob Bradley. Hate me for what I just said or not. Bob Bradley was the person who was in charge at that time and actually performing with the team that he had. And then another batch of very talented young players that have grown their games abroad. We looked to have that course totally corrected. But that's when the federation, was given to an economics person, not a soccer guy, in Sunil Gulati. And then he got engaged in the worst domestic partnership in the history of male-on-male relationships with Don Garber and a mistress that they both cheated on each other with called Soccer United Marketing. This trident of horseshit individuals took a pile of slightly melded clay that was successful and turned it into a kindergarten art project that you toss away in the garbage when your kid brings it home before they even recognize it. So total just jackassery, fucked all the forward momentum up. And then the reboot of it with Bob Bradley. So what happens next, John? Thanks for asking, Nate.
Yeah.
Well, these fucking assholes in charge broke the system to a point where they hired a former player in Ernie Stewart, who in his own right was a quality player on the pitch, but then talked his way into big director roles in Holland for some of the biggest teams in Holland from a club perspective, but then left each of those roles right before it was found out that he talked a big game versus being able to execute on what he talked about. So what did he do next, you ask? Great question, Nate. He said this statement, which was the beginning of the end, in my opinion, for soccer up to now. He said, "One ambition I do have is to go back to the United States and to be an importance to U.S. soccer." Boy, was that a fucking bad move. Since taking the sporting director job with the U.S., he said all the right things, but made a really bad mistake. The hiring of a coach with big ideas, but not able to fully understand what is actually needed and what to do with the players that we had at our disposal. Instead, we have a coach who is teaching a system of style of play that is predicated on high press defense that may work at the club level with 10 high-quality players who train daily together, and a system of offensive play that is supposed to be possession-based, where that possession starts with a goddamn goalkeeper. It does not work. We've inserted talented young players year after year into this system that are really encouraging, and I have really high hopes for them. But even the best we have look lost and unmotivated to fight for the badge and the country, which is what we used to do. I continue. It is depressing, and it makes 2020 soccer fans and players on that 2020 team and anyone with a decent soccer brain to run straight for the bottle to cope with this goddamn disaster. I continue. It was time to scrap the whole damn thing and close the doors for 2 years to get back our identity. That what made us successful back in 2002. Instead, we were tricked into thinking that there was hope. Hope, big word, hope. But we are still trotting out Giassi fucking Zardes and asking Brad Guzan to play with his feet to start our attack. Plus, we let our best coach in the system, in my opinion, and Tab Ramos, who had the U20s playing a super attractive, effective 4-3-3 style, to go coach the Houston fucking Dynamo. God damn it. Why? I could go on and on for days about this garbage. I have pride in our national team. I will support them through thick and thin. I watch all the games. I support them. I get frustrated. I celebrate their successes as anyone. But until our federation, which is currently in a lawsuit with our most successful team in the federation, gets blown apart and rebuilt, we're going to be stuck in this world of nepotism, backdoor dealings, and the elevation of people who have no business being involved in the team or in the direction of a team. I am done for now, Nate.
Yes.
I need another drink. There you go, Bryn. There was my rant. I hope you enjoyed it.
John, I want to add one thing. I just want to pick your brain here. Is it possible, like you brought up this like trifecta of Gulati and Garber and Soccer United marketing. Is it possible?
I believe I called it the trident of assholes.
Yes. Is U.S. soccer okay with the U.S. men's national team being mediocre? Like, are they okay with scrapping it out just to get out of the hex and hopefully make a World Cup once in a while? Like, would they rather make money with MLS and the caliber of player that plays in the MLS, which, as we've seen by and large, is not a World Cup caliber player? Are they comfortable like selling that lie that is quality soccer to the American public? And I say that because if you start elevating enough players that play abroad, start elevating enough Pulisic's and Sargents and Steffens and things like that, suddenly the American soccer fan that sees these guys playing and doing really good will look at the team that they've got in their backyard and be like, hey, how come they don't have that? Right? Like, is it sort of like, are we trying to sell the American people on a lesser quality soccer just to keep them coming to, go see Real Salt Lake play?
We used to have lesser quality soccer that was performing at a high level. And what I mean by that is we had a bunch of tryhards that had decent enough soccer talent to be able to perform to a certain extent against the likes of Germany and England. And, we beat Spain, we beat Brazil with these tryhards. So we were okay in the past with being all right with mediocrity because we knew what we had, but we knew what those other countries didn't have. And that was fantastic athletes that can go 120 minutes if a game goes into overtime, and they'll fight like hell, they'll scrap like hell, and then maybe we'll get a goal and it'll put us over the top. But instead, we put the trust in Soccer United marketing to run our federation, basically. And I challenge anyone to just go in the depths of the internet and find out what this organization really does and how they're connected to soccer. Because in my opinion, it is all revolving around the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Soccer United marketing is basically saying MLS and U.S. National Soccer Federation are tied together. And what I mean by that is they basically run each other. And it goes down all the way to the depths of having the Cupcake Camp in January, where we just trot out a bunch of U.S. guys into a camp that is all, domestic-based players, that none of the European guys are there. And these guys should never touch the goddamn field. Maybe 10% of them should touch the field. But then it's like, oh, we're having this MLS-only camp. Who gives a fuck? Like, you said it best. We should have day in and day out, whenever there's an international break, our best players playing together.
Yes.
And they should be playing together from 17 to the full national team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't need to be bringing in these afterthoughts, these also rants, to just put a camp together.
Yep, just to fill the spreadsheet.
We should be playing our best players every time they put on the red, white, and blue against no matter who the fuck it is. If it's Canada, Trinidad and Tobago, if it's Cuba, we should be rolling teams like that 8-9-0 because we have our best players out there. But instead, we're trotting out random guys who have no business being there. Like, if I have to see Giassi Zardes play in another meaningful match, I'm gonna fucking go nuts. But it's all based around the dollar. So as long as people keep going to the U.S. national team games and some starts getting money, and then MLS is also profitable in the eyes of some, and it's a franchise-based model, it's going to be the same shit. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have to take a catastrophic, another opportunity for us to not make a World Cup, for them to actually be like, we didn't make 2 World Cups. Like Spain, Germany, England, France, Belgium, all the soccer superpowers of the world all have 1 point. Holland have not made a World Cup.
So
that's okay.
I'm going to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
Who would be the ones to speak up or to like lead some sort of revolution? Because I'm going to tell you, John, it's not the MLS fans. If we don't make the 2020 World Cup, Portland Timbers are still going to sell out their games.
Yeah. Seattle's still going to sell out their games.
Yep.
Minnesota United is still going to sell out their games. Even if they trot out what I felt was in the 3-year plan. And if you can't see me, I'm doing the finger quotes. In the 3-year plan, we have a beautiful new stadium. The mystique of that stadium is going to wear out real fast if we don't start winning a title. And this year was our year to do it in the 3-year plan, and we didn't do it because we created. Oh man, I can go into this pretty deep.
Let's not change the subject, but I think that in general, you and I are aligned. This is like if U.S. soccer keeps valuing money over product,
the MLS fan is not the one to help the change.
Yep.
It's the Sam's Army, it's the American Outlaws, it's the family of 4 who's going to go take their kids to a game. It's them. It's the women's team to shake up the federation the way they're doing, to get people understanding that regardless of gender, high quality soccer within gender boundaries is still high quality soccer. And a great example of it is when you went to the women's game that was here at Allianz, and I didn't go, and you told me how much the ticket prices were, and then I did my research on it and I looked at it. I think we talked about it on the podcast too, and I really looked into it at a deeper level, and I saw that what they were basically doing was the federation was capitalizing on the success of people that were in a lawsuit with them who performed at the highest level. They were capitalizing on that family of 4. They were capitalizing on the supporters groups to go to that game and pay premium dollar above and beyond what the men actually charged to bring a Gold Cup game in. And they thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Like, our federation's fucking broken, dude. Like that just put me over the top. So it's going to take us not making another World Cup for people to start not going to games. I mean, even I hit the game in Cuba tonight, although it was played at a high school that was not even better than the barnyard that we played at our first year. That aside, there was 25 people in the stands.
It did not look like a lot of people, but it is Cuba.
I know, but if you go back take Cuba as a country out of the equation, you go to the Trinidad's, the Hondurases, those places are fucking packed because they don't want to lose to what's supposed to be the best team in the federation. But well, even John, that,
we'll end it on this, that speaking of Honduras, and you hate to say it, the next big test for the U.S. men's national team is going to be Honduras.
Real Salt Lake.
Honduras in the Nations League semifinal in June. So
also the creation of the Nations League is a whole nother thing I'd like to talk about at some point because it's a bunch of bullshit. It really is.
If you ever thought that you would hear about the U.S. men's national team, that the next big test was the nation of Honduras, we're here. And that's all you need to say about that.
Anyways, maybe we'll revisit this topic on another show. Yeah. But there you go, Bryn.
It's a good rant.
Hopefully you got what you asked for.
Well, John, it's already been a long off season, but while we fans are stuck without City to watch, some of the players, they're going strong, man. They're excelling at their school, excelling with their school teams, and helping them to the playoffs. You are tasked with your job with the club, with keeping your ear to the tracks and staying abreast of what's going on with their guys during their college seasons. Can you give us an update on who is playing some playoff soccer in the NCAA?
Well, a couple of these names will be pretty familiar because on the show that I did with Adam, we talked a little City at School. We talked about 2 guys that were performing. It's actually quite a long list of players, Nate, which is a testament of the talent that we work with. It helps elevate their school teams when they go back to them. And then it helps them, elevate the squads that they're part of. So hats off to the coaching staff, obviously, that works with these guys in the summer, keeps them fresh. Maybe the quality and the caliber of play that we provide within city is helping these guys then be able to dominate lower level talent or other levels of high talent that they might come up against. But from a Division III level perspective, we saw really tough North Park team in Illinois. Ben Keller, who we also mentioned on that show with Adam Pribble at Luther College, they topped UW Superior, who has quite a slew of Minneapolis City under 23 players on it in Miguel Ocampo, AJ Olson, Archie Giardrum, Esteban Badillo, to reach the Sweet 16. So Luther is the only team, Nate, that is currently has city members that's left in the Division III tournament.
Not a Division III is not really what the average person's going to follow or really know about, but that Luther squad is really good.
And they're really good because of Ben Keller.
Yep. He is dominating for them, and it's hopefully we can pull some more talent out of. I mean, that's where Miles Norville came from, right? Like this Luther pipeline, if they can keep developing talent, would be really, really good for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you go to the Division I ranks, Division I is just getting underway from a tournament perspective. And we, again, have lots of crows in the mix. Mike Riley at Loyola entered the tourney field with an automatic bid, winning the Missouri Valley Conference title. They were, I believe, a lower seed, and they went on a good run there.
That's Loyola in Chicago?
Yep, Loyola in Chicago. Rory O'Driscoll and Eli Goldman at New Hampshire won their second of back-to-back American East titles. They get the automatic bid there. And then finally, Jake Swellen of Wake Forest got an at-large bid out of the ACC tournament with a pretty impressive 13 wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses within a very difficult ACC. So they got the at-large bid there.
Nice. Yeah, I think, if you're going to follow a team, the first, New Hampshire has a really favorable matchup to start.
Yeah, I would say so. And Rory O'Driscoll's been starting. So
yeah, so that would be good to keep an eye out on. That might be a fun game to watch. All in all, it's good to see these guys moving on and succeeding at a high level in college. That's something that we've always hoped that Minneapolis City players would do as we, kind of grow that talent level locally, and hopefully they come back and continue to grow the club talent level in the NPSL.
Well, what I must say, to kind of close the loop on this topic is, from a recruiting perspective, there's quite a few more players that we're going to be bringing in for trials that are in Division I, Division II, Division III national tournament on national tournament teams. So there could be an even more increased level of crows if there's a proper fit for both sides. When these players come back in and try out, that could be also mentioned in this that I have to know as well.
Very sweet. Very sweet. Was it this time last year already, John, that you and I were rubbing elbows and passing the booze-filled duck around between some of the coolest owners in the NPSL?
It was. Hell yeah, man. It was a year ago when, for some stupid reason, the NPSL bid on our joke to host a warm weather desired meeting in -5-degree Minnesota, those suckers. And also for the record, when I went to the U.S. Gold Cup game that I mentioned previously at Allianz with my dad this past summer, I went to the same bar that we went to with those folks, and I bonged a beer out of the same duck in honor of that fateful night a year ago.
I love it. So, John, if people aren't familiar, what are the NPSL owner meetings, and why should Minneapolis City fans care about what goes on at them?
Honestly, fans really could care less about the meeting, as it truly is a chance really just for all of the 90+ owners to get in a room together, listen to kind of the state of the league, talk about rule changes, some keynote speakers, talk about the budget, and then they just kind of paint the town whatever color their teams are that night. But the important thing to really note is the league is in a decent financial standing, which is good to hear. I think we're under a leadership that's recently changed from the old guard that we did have, that's kind of in it for the right reasons in U.S. soccer, and they're letting people like us be who we want to be as a club in order to compete in this national league. So no, we didn't get the boot for being weirdos this year from the league. So there's that. We also learn, who the new teams are, that are in at the time from when the meeting starts. And I think we have until December 1st for expansion teams to enter. So there could be some new teams in the fold from a national perspective. And we also learn of the teams that are leaving or folding or perhaps going on a hiatus.
Yeah, so that means that next year's conference landscape starts to take shape at and around the owners meeting. So that situation is of course always in flux due to that like December 1st deadline, but you'll note that which was just yesterday or something. I thought it was, I guess the Milwaukee Torrent dropped a graphic that announced the exit of Sioux Falls and the Twin Stars from our conference as well, and the Milwaukee Torrent's addition to it, which was kind of a surprise for people. Minneapolis City tweeted out like, this might not be the full picture yet. That December deadline gives me hope that we'll go back up to at least 7 teams. What are your reactions to the addition of the Torrent?
You want my real reaction?
It's your hometown team, right?
No, it's not. No, it's not. I have nothing to do with that group of people.
Nope.
Outside of constantly poking at them to play the Bavarians, which they won't ever do. So the addition of the Torrent was a little surprising, but to us because we hadn't necessarily found out that was a thing. But whatever. It gives me a chance, though, Nate, as you know, to go home and get blasted drunk with my family and friends another time this summer. So I'm all in for that. But the new, actually, and where they play, there's a bar right across the street, like literally right across the street. So you and I will definitely have to make a trip down there this summer. So anyways, outside of me fueling my alcohol-filled sports habit this summer, the news basically that came down was that we're essentially losing 3 teams in 2 years. And that's pretty concerning as we need those home dates as a club to generate the revenue we do from our ticket sales. And for some reason, the Sioux Falls Thunder and Twin Stars were actually our biggest revenue draws on average over the past 2 years. Plus, we lose the Darbaki rivalry and the chance to kick some beers back with Nigel's mom, which is sad. I do have some inside info that there is another group outside of Minnesota that is looking to revive a team in a previous NPSL market that would make us really happy. But we're not really able to talk about that publicly until it happens or it doesn't happen. So we will bring that news once we get there and talk a little bit about that. I kind of shared some info with you off air here. But if that group gets in, they're good soccer people. They have financial backing, so they'd be good fit in our division. And if for some reason we do not get another team in, look for us to add some additional friendlies to capture an additional match date or 2 so our fans can get out and see as much Crow as possible this summer as they're used to. But don't forget, Nate, there are still some a ton of UPSL home games and away games that are not too far away from home that everyone can find themselves enjoying.
I mean that's the key is, no matter what, we're going to get a ton of Minneapolis City this summer. It's just going to be how much of it is U23 and how much of it is NPSL. John, were there any big issues addressed at the meeting that you can share? Like, are there any hot nationwide NPSL controversies going on right now?
I mean, the big things that were of interest for me was around the U.S. Open Cup that we may or may not get into. Who knows? We were told that ESPN Plus would actually have a larger role this year in the lower rounds. So that's encouraging to hear that, if we do make the tournament, perhaps our first or second round game might be televised nationally through ESPN. So that's cool. But that also brings things like we'll need to, as a league, not we as Minneapolis City, we'll have to level up our compliance to host at venues to make sure that that's possible. Certain teams, if you pick up what I'm putting down, an internet connection to a press box is probably a starter.
Yep.
But who knows how they'll try to kick us out this year. So we'll see. The other thing was that it was great to hear that we were ranked just behind Tech Mogul-led Kingston Stockade as the second best team in regards to streaming matches from an uptime perspective on MyCujo. So, that again is a preferred streaming partner of the MPLS. Or MPSL. So, man.
Sweet.
To Tyler and to the production crew, thanks a lot for nailing it. Here's to another year of uptime.
That's great for all our international friends.
Yeah, absolutely. So, nothing huge, Nate, I guess. It's pretty much a block and tackle meeting. And outside of Yeah, and then just some partying. And outside of the addition to our conference, nothing really new to report until we find out a little bit more before December 1st.
Gotcha. So you mentioned on the last show with Adam that open trial dates were coming. That happened this past week. And that means it is truly the kickoff to the next season, because that's the first organized activity that leads to the on-field product. You and I have talked at length a number of times on this podcast about what it means for us as a club, what the open trial brings us, and how valuable it can be. But maybe you can tell us more about how this open trial specifically went.
Sure. So this year's first trial saw 38 players attend, which is simply about how many we get per trial. And I can say that each trial that we put on, we have an increased level of talent than we got in previous years, which is encouraging. So yes, there are players that are not quite ready for this level, that we play at, whether it be the NPSL or the UPSL. But we still have them come out and give it a go and showcase their skills for us in a professional environment. This year, we did have a few players that returned to the trial from previous trials, and they really took our advice and kept playing, and they did get better. So out of the 38 guys, it looks like we're going to invite maybe 3 to 4 players into the next round of trials, which is kind of typical from a numbers perspective, which is, which we've seen in the past. Yeah, but it is definitely important. Yeah, right. Exactly. 4 out of 38 isn't bad. But it is important to note, Nate, that last year we saw 2 players get signed and become regular starters for us through the open trial. So if you don't make it this year, like Coach Matt says at the end of it, it's a no for now, but it's not a no forever. So keep at it. Continue to support the club. We really appreciate the guys that come out. And we love to see them out at our games and supporting the club, because soccer is great for everyone, right?
Yeah. So who's there evaluating the talent alongside you and Matt and Adam?
Well, we had the full coaching staff. I don't know if I'm necessarily privy to say who's all doing what, but we had Derek Johnson, who's our goalkeeper coach, unable to make it. So Adam stepped in, being that was a previous role that he had with us in the early years of Minneapolis City. So Adam was there working with the goalkeepers. Myself, there were 4 dedicated teams out of the 38. I had one team that I followed throughout the whole evening, from warm up to some technical work to some free play. Amin, who was on the coaching staff last year, had a team. Steve, who was on the coaching staff last year, had a team. And then we actually were graced with the presence of one Mr. Jeremy Handler, who has, as we know, stepped aside, and Ryan Nichols has been elevated to the coaching position that he vacated. So he came to evaluate a team, which then what it really did, Nate, was it allowed Matt and Ryan the ability to kind of float around and talk to the evaluators and say, like, what are you seeing? Who should I be looking at? So it gave them more focus than in previous years past. Especially with the guys who sign up that are not necessarily at the caliber of others. We tend to see some injuries with those folks. But no, we got out of there alive. No one died, so it's good. So it's basically it's kind of an all hands on deck. Daniel Warner, who's the president of Stegman's, was out there evaluating some talent to see if there's anyone that he can bring into to the secondary arm of the Minneapolis City triangle, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
But he was out there as well evaluating some talent.
Nice. Cool. How many more rounds of open trials throughout the winter are coming up before the college kids get home? Or are we looking at maybe the next one coming up over the December, January break when all those kids would be back?
That will be the next step. Okay. We always do have one more open trial in the April time period for the people who tried to sign up for the first one but couldn't, because we want to give everyone an opportunity to get a look. And, we found that trial in particular is usually the highest caliber of talent, because the college players are done with their spring season. They're officially done with college soccer for the year, and they're coming through. And I know it's a trial that a lot of the MIAC coaches definitely promote to their players when they have their exit interviews for the guys that we haven't already identified that we're inviting into our preferred trials, which are over that break. So to answer your question, the true next step in theory is our invite-only combine that we have during the winter break.
Okay, cool. I guess last question is, what next time you see Adam, I'd like you to ask him like how it feels for him to be getting beat in Fantasy Premier League by my 12-year-old son.
I mean, hey, Nolan loves soccer. So if it tells you anything, United States Soccer Federation, if you have people who are dedicated and try hard and have enough knowledge and skill, they will be successful in evaluating and putting out a proper side.
Yeah, that's for sure. So open trials will give people updates as they continue on. But for now, it's a good update. Thanks, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And, before we close it out, I think this show in particular will have a lot of updates for people. So, stay close to your podcast feed to make sure that you're listening. As we get closer to the December 1st date, we'll talk a little bit more about the invite trials and kind of who we're bringing in. Maybe some people of interest in the local market, but also some people nationally that have gone to other schools. So we'll talk a little bit more about, I think, all the topics that we've touched on, including providing some updates on our next open trial that'll be, after the holiday break. So Sweet. that is all for tonight, folks. Nate, you made it on your return. You made it back.
I did.
It was good to have you. Now is the hardest part of the show, especially after all the old granddad I had to fuel that first rant. Excuse me.
There you go.
Thank you as always to our sponsor, Summit Brewing Company. Winter is coming, and Summit Winter Ale is here and ready to help you take it in the face. In the face. Get some at your local liquor store or watering hole today. Summit, a more meaningful brew since 1986.
You read that without pre-reading it. That's good.
Yep. I've not read any of this. If giving back to the community means a lot to you, maybe it's time to give to the club that gives back. Minneapolis City is a 501c3 that provides a safe and reliable, fun environment for young people to play the beautiful game. Look for us this offseason hosting play events and in partnership with community centers around the city, and consider a tax-deductible donation to a truly city-focused organization. Dramatic pause. There's never a bad time to become a member of Minneapolis City. For less than the price of 2 full tanks of gas, I did the math, $65 allows you to support the club and get some cool stuff in return. Yeah, you get an exclusive membership scarf, membership card that gets you 10% off at the club shop and deals at Summit at our official game day bar, Palmer's. Plus, you get a vote on important club matters, including selecting the membership board and choosing the scarf and kit designs. Visit MinneapolisCitySC.com and make it happen, people. Do you have anything you want us to cover in the offseason? Any hard-hitting exposés you were hoping that we'd undertake? Any old granddad rants, if you will, that we won't get us fined by the league? Send us mail. It's easy. Hit us up on Twitter @ThePeoplesPitch or through email at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. All questions, comments, and concerns are welcome. And finally, as always, you can complain to the club at MPLS City SC. That is all for this week. The return of Nate.
Yes. Success.
We'll be back probably at a more accelerated schedule of maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending upon the fact that Nate has a newborn at home, with some really good off-season topics. So please stay tuned. I am John. That again is Nate. Welcome back. We'll see you next time. And you got hooked.
Poster burning maple weeds, cradle major keys. Thinking back, I've been major since the minor league. So supreme, too much sauce off my olive NMDs. I could staple steez, bend the goat so I get the cheese. Never fall, rake them leaves and make sure every moment gets seized. And everything I see is make